Welcome back to Scavenger Workshop. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about what we do. We design movie props that can be assembled by the average person. So the way we design things is we try and figure out a way to design it for the person with the least amount of skills can assemble it and still have something that they're very proud of. So a lot of times we use these little type of slot-based connect T-slots, we call them, for mounting stuff, and we have all these little different types of tabs. Okay, so this is the Ghost Busters Trap, and I'm gonna go through as far as I can on the assembly process as what I can show you guys, because the water jet company inadvertently forgot to ship me one piece, so I can't finish it. So a couple of things you're gonna need, along with the flat pack kit that you get, you order from the water jet company, you're gonna need some different nuts and screws, and I will post in the build document on which ones you're gonna need. Right, so the first thing is we're gonna assemble the arm post. Okay, so what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to countersink these two holes on this piece here. Now, countersinking is done with a bit that you can get from Home Depot. You just basically, you're gonna put it on the hole and drill, and then you're gonna get your bolt, and then you're gonna put it through the hole until you feel that the bolt is somewhat flush. For a lot of for this part, it doesn't have to be completely flush, but some of the other locations, you want it to be a little bit underneath the surface. When you feel the top of the head, you want to feel it under the surface. Okay, another thing you're gonna have to order is this stuff here. This is called JB Weld, and it's designed for metal. You want to look for the one that's designed for metal, and it's a steel reinforced epoxy. Now, when this stuff cures, you will not be able to get two pieces of aluminum apart. And you want to do this after you do a dry assembly. So once you've countersinked all your holes and you put your bolts in and you've got it fully assembled, you want to completely tear down your assembly again, and then you're going to put this in specific locations. So I'm going to leave this right here, and I'm going to let you know. So when you're assembling this piece, you're going to put a thin layer on this centerpiece here. You're gonna set your nut in there. Now this is the retention nut that holds the handle on, right? So you put a thin layer on this side, you drop it here, you take this top piece here, you drop it there. Now, as you can see, the nut's secured in that center piece. And we do this so we figure out a way so you don't have to tap any parts. Because when you try and tap a hole, sometimes the tap will break in there, and then you have to order a whole new set. And like we said, we want to make this as easy as possible for like the person with the least amount of skills. So you're gonna put the nuts on like so. And you're gonna have epoxy in here, because what the epoxy is gonna do is it's gonna kind of squeeze out of these little lines here, and then when you go over it with an electric sander, it's gonna be completely smooth, and you're not gonna see those lines. It's gonna look like one solid piece. So that's how we got the required thickness here, you know, without actually cutting from something that thick. And you want to go ahead and fully tighten up your nuts, okay? And that's the first piece. That's the handle that's assembled. Now, what you're gonna notice is this piece here, where is it? This piece here looks a little bit different than the one you're gonna get in the final release, because I have two little tabs here that hold the servos in place, the servos that's gonna open up the doors. So some of these pieces may look different. That's because this is a Rev 1 prototype. Okay, so the next piece you're gonna get is you're gonna get this piece. It's gonna be pre-bent from the water jet company, but these tabs are gonna be facing up. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna grab the pliers at the marks right there, and then you want to bend them down. But not only bend them down, you want them kind of tilted just slightly downward, so that way when you put the plate on, when you screw the plate on, the plate's going to be flush. Okay. I have to make an adjustment to the file because the holes are slightly a little outward, and I have to bring them in a little bit, but that's no big. By the time you get the Rev 2, it'll be corrected. So you want to countersink these holes as well with your countersink bit, so that way your screws fit flush, because this piece here is going to sit on the bottom place, and it's going to be held in place by your arm. See how that tab goes in there and it locks in place? So this is going to hold this box in place, right? Now I may design an additional screw linkage in here to hold it together, but we're going to look at that later once I have everything together, whether it needs it or not. So when you get to this point, you're going to put your screws into the bottom. You have your tops bent, right? And then you're going to set this piece aside. The next piece you're going to want to get is your side pieces here. These are your side pieces. You want to set one of them on the ground. You have the other one next to you, and then you're going to want to start dropping in your parts. So you need this top piece as well, and once again, you're going to use epoxy here, but right now I just have it held in place with these nuts, these screws in the nuts, right? And later you're going to drop pins in here once you set the glue, but we're doing a dry fit right now. So you're going to drop this piece in like this through these little squares right here, and then this piece is going to go here. Just set it in place for now. You're going to need this thinner one here, which is going to go here, dropped in place. And then you need the outer one. That's this one here that has these slots in it. These slots are later for that outside box. When you do the box assembly, you're gonna put this in here. You're gonna assemble this box prior to putting this on. But like I said, I'm missing the inner support that holds it together, so I cannot assemble this part right now. So we're gonna act like that's on there and it's assembled. So this piece goes in here, like here, this tab. You see the tab? And it's gonna lock into that bottom slot. It's a slot right here, if you can see it. Just like this one's locked in the slot. And then this side's locked into a slot as well. So there's another tab on this side, which is gonna go here. So that's gonna lock in to place like this as well. And then ideally, before you do anything, you wanna sand your part, get a sander across that. And then on these little corners here, you're gonna wanna get a file and just kind of do that on all these little corners where all these little tabs are, right here, all the little slots and tabs. The reason is there's what's called the kerf. The kerf is when the water jet company or the laser comes around that edge, it leaves a little curl there, so it's not exactly square. So if you don't file these tabs, all these different tabs, when you go to assemble it, you're gonna see a tiny little gap. So make sure you file all the little tabbed edges together. Okay. Okay. Now we're gonna drop this piece in here like this. Make sure all your little tabs are lined up. Right. That's your tab. And then this piece right here, ideally, will go on that bottom section like I showed you before. So at this point, we have these little slots right here. You see these little square slots? And if you look in there, there's space for a nut. So what you have to do is you have to get your countersink drill, kind of center it. And then give it a little rounded edge like that. Not a whole lot, just enough to so the nuts fit flush, right? You're gonna get your nut and your screw. You're gonna slide your nut into the slot behind it. You may have to kind of jiggle it in there or get it in there to get it center. It's definitely hard doing this when you're doing a video, but you can get something to kind of move it more towards the center if you need to, right? And then you're gonna get your bolt and drive that sucker in there. So screw that in there. Like I said, you see how that screw is in there flush? So that's gonna keep that part from ever coming apart, right? And this is our internal way of pulling all the parts together and still having the screws hidden, right? So by by us doing this, right, we can have a solid assembly and we don't have to worry about it coming apart or rattling or anything like that. But this is a dry fit, so we're definitely going to take it all back apart and reassemble it with that glue on all the seams, right? Because ideally you don't want to ever have to take it apart, because if you need to do any maintenance or adjust your servos, this whole plate here can be removed with these screws right here. You can just take this plate off and you have access to everything. So this is just the inner frame that we're so make sure you get it in there good. I think I lost a nut. Yeah, I did lose the nut. Kind of rattled out. So put that nut back in there. Right, and then we'll get one of these tiny screws. And like I said, if it's done right, they should all feel flush. This one needs to go in a little bit deeper. So we'll just back that out. And we'll just add a little bit more to it, right? All right, I think it has like a burr in it or something. Let me see. Yeah, it looked like it had some a little piece of metal in it. All right, so that side's done. You notice it's held together pretty tightly. So once these are below the surface, slightly flush, you can run the sander over it again and sand it smooth, and these lines will pretty much disappear. But these inner ones won't be shown, because once again, I said, once you have your plate over it, you can see this one here, but like I said, when you sand it and with that JB Weld, the lines and the dimple is going to disappear, and then you shoot with black paint, you ain't ever going to see it again. So you can get it to look really nice. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over, and we're going to do the other side. Alright, this one doesn't need to go too much because it's such a wide hole. But we're going to drop the nut in there. And then we'll put the screw in there. All right. And then the same thing for this side. All right, so if you looked at some of our other designs, we have designs for R2-D2, like we do probably, I'd say like 70% of him we have parts for. And we're working on a lot more, but yep. But we're starting to branch out in some other IPs as well, like Ghost Busters. We're gonna do some the trap with the removable cartridge. We're gonna do the proton thrower and some of the parts that go on the pack. But we're only going to do this if you guys are interested and we get support. So the whole idea behind this stuff, the reason why we do this is we raise money for charities. You know, I go to the children's hospitals. We try and raise money for Make-A-Wish Foundation. So if you guys want to support us, then that's how you can support us. You know, we have a Patreon. And every time you buy one of our files, it goes to charity. So, now here's the bottom plate right here. This is what plate you're gonna mount your wheels and whatnot on. So you're gonna go ahead and drop this part onto the plate. And if you've filed the edges, it should go on fairly easy. I know I have to fight it a little bit because and just give it a little wiggle. Some of these plates, like this one right here, you might have to kind of bend forward a little bit. See how it's still moving, and then let me go get a mallet. May have to tap it with a rubber mallet. And you probably have to do the same thing to get it off. But and you see, it holds together pretty well once it's screwed in. All right. Same thing you're gonna do on the bottom, right here. You're gonna countersink some holes. You're gonna get your nut, drop your nut in. And honestly, some of these may be unnecessary because of the, you know, when you tapped it in, it's pretty freaking tight, but you may have to do that. All right, kind of hold that nut in. It also helps to use some hot glue, right, as well, to hold these nuts in so they don't fall out when you're trying to get them in there. And like I said, you want to countersink it so that way the nut's just right under the surface, so that way you can't, when you rub across, you can't feel it. Because if you want to be really extreme with it, you can fill it in with putty once you got it all glued together and stuff, and then sand it down and paint it, and they will just disappear. So it's all depending on how far you want to go with the assembly process. So I should have done it for these nuts here, because it's going to be hard for me to get at this one and stick in there because it's behind this plate here. So I probably should have hot glued them in there prior to doing it, but you know what? I designed this and I don't even know how to assemble it or how I was intending to assemble it. So go ahead and put your nuts in prior to doing all this assembly. Maybe throw a little hot glue in there. But each one. And don't be afraid to like I said, to go at it. It's not hard. So you don't have to fear, oh, I'm gonna go too deep. If you do, it's not the end of the world. It's you just throw a little Bondo over it and no one's ever gonna know. And I guarantee you, once it's all bolted together, you could toss this thing across a room and it's not going to it's not gonna break. You know, when we design stuff, we design stuff to we design it to last. Whole idea behind this stuff is for it to be one solid unit. Now, go ahead and do the other sides. I'm not going to bother because, like I said, I'm going to take it apart again. So, there's these square holes in here that require nuts for your side pieces, right? Let me see if I can find a little bit larger screw. So when I ordered these round ones that are used in the movie, I got them a little too short, so I need to order some more. But ideally, you're gonna want the same thing. You won't want your bolts on the other side. You know, have to get at it from the other side. Glue these bolts in prior to it. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to get at that until I glue it in. I might switch over for these inner ones because they're square. They make square nuts. I might switch over to a square nut to hold those in there. That might make it the assembly process a little bit easier on you guys. And we were talking about adding magnetic mounts so that way these plates could be removable. That's still a possibility. We're still discussing that. I can make different versions if you guys want, you know. I have this on backwards. You guys gonna let me put this on backwards without saying anything, huh? All right, let's see here. So ideally we need the retention nuts in there. You want to hot glue them in place so that way they don't move when you stick the screws in. Once you got the screws in and you set it down, it's fine. It doesn't matter if the hot glue moves or if the screw moves because there's nowhere for it to go. We have this plate here, just slides on. and it should line up with the holes just fine right there. So these holes, I think this is the only holes that I'm gonna have you guys thread with a tap, because there's no way for you to get in there and put a nut on the back end, right? So there's that. These are not the doors that are coming with the kit. The doors that come with the kit has similar pinholes like this, so that way when you do the assembly, you use that glue and you stick the pins in it and it's held together, right? But prior to you pinning it, you're gonna take a scribe and file a groove right here and right here, right? And then when you put it together, it should leave a mark for you to drill a hole here. So that's gonna be your hinge mechanism, right? So we're pretty much still working that out, but it should work fine on Rev 2, right? And then your doors are just gonna pop in basically right here with pins. Like so. A lot of this stuff is a little tight because aluminum is way different than 3D printing. So I 3D printed the prototypes, but usually I have to order one aluminum kit and I make all these little micro adjustments so that everything's pretty smooth and functions smoothly. So when you guys get it, you don't have to file here and edge there. I'll give you enough play in it so that way you're not having to fight it, you know, to get it back together. All right. So we got the other parts here. Now this part right here, this is going to be bent by 55 degrees by the water jet company. I didn't get this one bent. And basically, essentially what this one is, it's the back piece here, as well as the holes for the knobs and whatnot, and then these two holes are the holes that screw on the side. Okay, so that's all worked out. So, a couple of things that are going to be required by you. This tab here, you're going to have to run a file across it at a 20 degrees, which it's easy because the dog ears, you'll be able to see from the dog ears on what it is, because the way water jet works is it's flat plates and the laser or the water jet cuts it from the top, so there's no way to put a bevel on these. So that's one of the things you guys are going to have to do to finish off your prop. But when I make another video, I'll show you how to do that. It's not hard. I'm not asking you guys to do a lot. Now, let me show you how this works right here. This is your box. These things go in here into these tabs, right? You probably have to file it a little bit to get it to go in smoothly, right? They're going in like that. And when you do your final assembly of this, like I said, you're gonna put this JB Weld in here, and that's gonna make all these seams disappear, right? Because there's a lot of hard angles on here, so it's not that easy to get it to get like what essentially this should be machined. If you want it perfect, in a real world, it should be a machined part, right, on a 6-axis. But that's really expensive, and that's why other Ghostbusters kits are $2,000, because they're doing a lot of machine work and they're doing a lot of welding. I'm removing that from you. So they have these same slots here. There's a inner piece, and that was the piece they forgot to send me, right? The inner piece that goes in here, and it goes in these slots, and the same locking screw mechanism, but it's M3 screws that hold these 4 pieces together. So there's 4 screws in here. Now, these screws are going to be hidden by the dog ears when you put the dog ears in. And the updated tabs on Rev 2 have a hole for those dog ears to be screwed onto the side, right? Once you do your entire assembly, you'll be able to stick your finger in there, hold the screw in place, and then screw the dog ear down. So these tabs right here, they need to be bent down. So because I didn't feel like this was really a part that you guys needed to get bent by the machine shop. I mean the water jet company, I can, if you like, have it bent. It's not a big deal, but bending it is just a matter of grabbing it and bending it. It's going to be maybe 70 degrees. I don't know. I gotta look and see what I had. But you want to bend it at this part right here, because this is your upper tab. It's going to bend down like this. So when it goes on the back, right, you need to bend it a little bit more. So when it goes on the back, it's going to lock down into these 2 little tab slots right here, right? It's going to set in there. You probably have to file it to get it to set flat, and then it's going to be flush on this side angle here. So it's going to ride this top piece. So once you've got it completely bent and flush, it's going to ride that top piece, and then this will mount on these screws. And if everything's done correctly, once you push it forward enough, you'll see that it has this edge around it, so you won't be able to see in there. Now, if you wanted to clean it up further, you can, put a little putty there and square it off. But that was literally the only way I can get this assembly in here, is to where you're not having to machine it, so where you guys can still make this at home and make it look really nice. So a little caveats here, but you guys have to do a little work, but I have faith in you guys that you can do this. So that's that assembly. Let's talk about the tube, the handle. Now, I'm going to give you guys a place in the measurements that you can go. It's called Online Metal. They have the exact same thickness of the handle that you need. You order it, and it's going to come just 1 tube, right? It's about $7. You're going to do the same thing for those 2 tubes here, those 2 rods. About $7 for the handle, about $7 for the rods. When you get the handle, you have to drill 2 holes in it. It's really easy, not rocket science. I can show you guys how to do that too. Once you drill the holes in it, you'll drop a nut through the top hole, and it'll bolt on there, and you have your handle, right? Same thing with the rods. I'll show you how to round the edges. Basically, what I do is I take the rod, stick it in my drill, put it against the file like this, spin the drill, and kind of turn it, and it just rounds the end. Really easy, not rocket science. I know you guys can do it. So that's pretty much that. Once everything, ideally, once everything's together for your dry fitting, then you can just take everything back apart, and then go ahead and put your epoxy along the seams. Let it set for 24 hours with the sides off, right? And once it's cured, right? It's gonna have squeezed out of these little spots right here, all these little spots. Run your sander over it, and then all these little lines will disappear, and it's gonna look like one solid piece. Okay, so that's the assembly. I mean, it's what we had to do to get you an aluminum trap for about $200 versus $2,000. So I'm hoping you guys really appreciate this. I hope you like it. And let's talk one last thing. I've already spent a couple $100 in designing this in CAD, so I'm gonna let you guys know. If you want the trap, you know, you can make a donation to the Patreon. It goes to charity. Please don't share it with other people. Please do not post it out publicly, because there's a lot of work that goes into this, and we're really just trying to do good things for the kids and whatnot. So I understand you guys are excited about it and you want to get it to all your friends and all that, but just give them the link and say, hey, you have two options: $5 monthly Patreon, and you have access to all of our files. That means you'll have access to whatever we release. As long as you have the subscription, whatever we release, you'll have access to for $5 a month. You'll have access to all of our R2-D2 stuff, all of our, we're working on Doctor Who, we're working on Chopper, we're working on a lot of Ghost Busters stuff. So long as you guys appreciate what we're doing and we see an impact on what we're doing for the children, we'll continue to do it. Love doing this stuff. And you have access to everything basically for $5 a month. For a one-time donation of $10, you can just say, okay, all I want is the trap, $10, that's it. No commitment, no strings, $10. And you can go back to that one purchase you've done, and you have access to that one purchase. If we made changes and you want to get an update, or we add something additionally to it, you have access to it, so long as you know you've purchased that license. And additionally, right now, if you guys want to, we have the exact same thing I showed you right here as a 3D printed model. So you can 3D print all these parts and you can assemble it in your home right now. If you want to beta test this and you want to look at it and you want to compare it to your Hasbro trap and just get a feel for it and possibly could critique it. You know, if you see something that's glaringly wrong with it, let me know. I'll make the changes and fix it. So, you know, this is based off of an old trap I built probably about, 10 years ago, an aluminum one that I built about 10 years ago. So, you know, I don't know. To me, it seems like it's accurate. I don't know where I got the reference material from because it was so long ago. But we're going to look at a couple of things and just make sure it's close as possible. So you guys let me know. So that's pretty much it for this. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope we make some really cool stuff in the future.